One thing that troubled me, and not only me, I guess Mom and me, was after when Lou died, Pearl was away at camp, summer camp, and his death was so sudden, and we were discussing whether it was appropriate to interrupt her pleasures at camp and bring her home for the funeral, and or not. And we decided not to. We decided to let her stay out over the summer, and so Will and I went to pick her up, and we at the appropriate place where they came in by bus, and we took her home on the subway, and all through the trip, neither of us could bring ourselves to tell her, and finally, on the very last block going home, Will saw that I couldn't do it, so he took over. She was always very fond of Will, and he of her, of course. And so he took her and put his arm around her, and I walked behind, and I could see the exact moment that he told her because I saw her little shoulders crumple. And then we went home, and I still see when we came into the house, she and Mom dashed for each other, and embraced and cried. I wasn't going to talk about this because she shouldn't talk because it's her birthday and we're celebrating. So we shouldn't talk about sad things. But I come to the conclusion that I think we should have told her. And I think that she should have been interrupted in the summer, and that she should have come and gone through the mourning with everybody else at the same time. I thought that we had made the wrong decision, even though we thought at the time we had made the right decision. I don't know how much that affected her psyche from that time on, but that was it. And that's the reason that we came back and we stayed with Mom and Pearl.
And what was her father like? What was Louis like?
He was a very sweet man. He was very nice. He smoked incessantly, constantly. So when you went to the bathroom after he was in the bathroom, it was horrible. Because he used to like to sit there and read. He was a great reader. He was an intellectual. He was tried to be. He was very interested in current events, and he read the Nation magazine. So he was a little bit left of center. And he was a very nice guy. And when one of the reasons that Mom had to buy the house was that she married Lou, but he came with his father, who was a lovely, lovely man, very gentle and sweet, and his younger brother, who never worked a day in his life. But they used to call these people Luftmenschen. You know, they got along on air. And he filled the basement of the house with giant fish tanks, tremendous fish tanks, in addition to the big coal stove that we had there. And the fish tanks held millions of guppies. That's the only kind of fish he ever had. He loved guppies, and that's what he had. And he finally dismantled them when he decided to go live in Florida, in California, with his sister who lived in California. But until that time, we had lots of fish. And, so maybe that's where Lenny gets his interest in the amphibian family.
Maybe. So the one who went off to California, that was his younger brother?
Yeah.
Is he who was the one who went into film?
His name was Willie.
Oh, it was Willie Liebesman.
Yeah.
And uh, had he had left before Lewis passed away?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. He left, about, I would say, a year or two after we bought the house, when we bought the house in 1927.
1927. Okay. Wow. Okay. So, and he died. Lewis died what in 1939? Was it?
Yeah, because we were married in December 38, and we really graduated from Cooper Union in June 39. And Lou was at the party. We had a little party where I got a cake that said "Hooray for Willie the Engineer," and somewhere I have a picture of the cake. And
I remember you had a photography exhibit.
yeah, well, that was after we had moved. That was when I had both kids, and we were always interested in photography. And we usually made our bathroom into a dark room. And Will taught me how to use the camera. Because with our wedding money, of which wasn't very much, in fact, it was very little. The largest amount of money that we got was from my Uncle Ben, and that was $50. In those days, services were the gifts. I remember my is it my uncle? Yeah, my uncle, who was in the catering business, or he came over the night before the wedding. My grandmother had gotten a lot of things ready, and I still remember them standing there at the with a big board and chopping away, and he was chopping like professionals chop, and making all the salads, for the wedding. The ceremony was performed as my wedding gift of my cousin, who was the assistant rabbi at the temple, and that's why we went to that temple. And one of Will's best friends drove us to the wedding. That was his gift. And I know my father's friend with whom he worked, provided me with clothing all my from when I was first born. I mean, from after Harry died until I got married. They made me my wedding going away suit, and they gave me the materials for my wedding dress, and I never had to go shopping for anything. So for me, it was a new experience to go into Klein's and Albach's and all that kind of stuff, because that was right near where I worked.
Well, you also were a child model, right?
Oh, that was it. I was sent to dance with the Isidore Duncan dances. They had classes there, so went there. And I used to go to, Grandma took me all the way up to the Heckscher Foundation that was uptown Manhattan. Wherever there was anything free and available, did that. And there, they produced plays and so on. And so I was in a play, and where I had two parts. I was a Dutch girl in one act, and in another act I was a Japanese lady. So I had the costumes, the makeup, and all that. And it seems that some magazine called Children's Vogue, which I think is no longer in existence, wanted somebody to pose for their summer issue of children's styles and stuff. And they came around looking for people, and the Heckscher Foundation suggested me, because they were looking for a little girl, and I was usually little. So I went there, but before I went, I made a deal with my grandma. I said, because she always made me wear long underwear, all the way down to the ankles. I said, it has to be cut. I'm not going to have long underwear there. I don't want to be ashamed when I take my clothes off to put on the other stuff. So she agreed, and she cut me at the knees. Okay. And when I got there, she let me go by myself. I guess maybe it was a Saturday or something, and she wouldn't ride. She brought me up to be very religious, and it was difficult for me to get to ride, but I had her permission. And and got there, and the artist, and they didn't take photos. They had an artist who sketched in those days. Photography was a very limited thing then. And he had a beautiful little summer dress with no sleeves. And I was so worried because he put that on me. And of course the other girls were regular, real models, and they came with those gorgeous underwear and stuff. I was so ashamed. It was terrible. And he, and then they started sketching, and I said, "Are you going to sketch me with the long underwear sticking out?" He said, "Oh no," he said, "all you'll see will be the dress." And it was right. That's all I saw was the dress when the magazine came out. I thought I'm pretty sure I saw Mom have it when we had all those papers and things in the basement. But I've never been able to find that since.
What magazine was it?
Children's Vogue.
Children's Vogue, and do you remember about?
When?
Yeah, early 30s?
About 10, so it must have been about, I was born in 1916, so it must have been about 1926.
1926, okay.
Around that time.
Mm-hmm.
No. Anyway, that was that. But at least I got my underwear shortened.
Yes. Wait, so these were the Hoodles rules?
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Did she have
She was a strict lady.
She had a lot of rules, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think Mom had said that
I was really a pretty snotty kid.
Really?
Oh yeah, I had to have my birthday party every year. I was really spoiled rotten, I think. Because I remember my mother being very embarrassed because when I was my birthday time, and we had a party every time I had a birthday, and somebody rang the bell, and when we opened the door and said hello, before I even said hello, I said, "Where's my present?" I remember my mother being very embarrassed, and she pulled me back, behind her. But it didn't work. It didn't help.
How old were you then?
I guess, well, it must have been before I was 11, because that's when my mother got married again. So it must have been when I was about 4 or 5 or 6, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know the story about how I got to school early.
Oh, yes, well, we can hear it again. You can tell the story about how you got into school.
Yeah, yeah.
You like?
Grandma was taking me to school to register me for kindergarten. And I guess I was going on to 5 in April. This was February, because they had the fall semester and the spring semester. And they were very lax. They didn't require birth certificates. Or, if you answered certain questions, I guess it was okay. So on the way to school, she was thinking, if you get Belle in to first grade instead of kindergarten, she'll save a year or half a year, and then she'll be out when she'll graduate when she's 14. That'll be a year earlier, so she'll be able to go to work, because you couldn't get your working papers until you were 14, and she'll make some money, and help the family. So she said to me, she said, "You're going to be 5 years old." I said, "No, I'm not." No, she said, "You're going to be, 5. I said, "Oh, you're going to be, 5. For first grade, you had to be 6. I said, "You're going to be 6 years old." I said, "No, I'm not. I'm going to be 5." And she said, "Yes, you are." She said, and I'm going to tell them that. And if you tell them something different from me, they'll take me and put me in jail, and nobody will be able to see me, and they'll only feed me bread and water." I said, "Oh my God, how could I let that happen to my bubby?" So I acquiesced. So it turned out, and all they did was, they didn't ask her birth certificate. And they said, "What's your name?" And she said, "Bubby, spell your name. Bubula. Bubula, spell your name." So I spelled my name, because that's what my father had taught me to. And, uh, and they admitted me. So I went to first grade. And she was very happy. But it made life much more complicated for me, because I had a school age, I had a regular age, a birthday party age, and I had a transportation age. Because if I was short, so if you got under the turnstile, you didn't have to pay. And if anybody asked me, I have to say I was 4.
Aha, so you could get on the subway for free.
Right, right.
It must have been
Oh,
very
it's so funny,
stressful.
right?
It must have been very stressful trying to keep track of these things.
Yeah. Had to stop and think, where am I? But do you know, I was so scared with her story. I was such a dope that I never corrected that until when I graduated from college. That's when I went in to correct it, because I thought something terrible was going to happen to me.
Yeah. Boy.
Yeah. Can you imagine going through life with that kind of a burden?
It's really, yeah, it's remarkable.
It's funny.
So that was and Mom told me that your mom really regretted that she didn't get to raise you. That Hoodle, really
That's
did
right.
that role, and as such, she felt that she tried extra hard the second time around
Mm.
with her, and tried to be,
Oh, and Pearl's father was a very good, he really was very nice as a father. He took us very seriously, because by then I was close to teenage, and he took it very seriously to raise a teenage daughter. He was very strict, very strict. And he wanted to know with whom I was going out, and I had a curfew and all that kind of stuff. And one time, and Will had a group of guys who got together and gave themselves a Greek name, and they were just a club, and they rented a basement, and they got together there, and we danced, we listened to music, we declaimed poetry, we read from books. It was really very innocent. But they knew I was going there, and they didn't say anything to me. And one evening, when we were actually declaiming poetry, we saw some eyes looking down the basement windows, and looking closer, it was Louie and Mom, who came to decide for themselves what was going on there. Yep. There you have it.
Did they fess up, or
As far as they could throw along.
I guess they were happy to discover you were just declaiming poetry?
I'm sure they were. But they may have been a little disappointed too. I don't know.
And so, what other things did you want to, did you find more stuff in your notes that you wanted to talk about, or?
Well, let me see. I didn't want to talk about Pearl losing her father. Pearl's grandpa was so delighted when she was born. He just thought she was the greatest gift. And of course, she looked so adorable. She had this curly blonde hair and these sparkly eyes, and that dimple. Oh my God, you never saw it. Well, you see, you're used to it. But that three-pronged dimple, that was so cute. He made her a little chair, a little wooden chair to sit on. He was skilled as a carpenter. I don't know whether that was his trade or not, but he could do that sort of thing. And unfortunately, he died early, so that he couldn't really appreciate her growing up. But I was only going to talk about when she was really very little, and point out how all these early things that she did made her I mean, she was a wonderful cook and baker. I think I said that before.
How did she meet, or when did you first meet my father?
Oh, we met him when he used to come and come to visit all the way from the Bronx. He used to make that trip to come to visit Pearl, and so we met him, and he was so handsome, and he was so slender and really lovely, very nice looking, and they went steady, and she and he were my best babysitters after we moved away and we were in our own apartment. And Will and I wanted to go out, so they came, and they were very good babysitters. There was one time when Will was working for American Electric, American Gas and Electric, that's what it was called, American Gas and Electric. And he was asked to go out to Purdue University because to spend a week there, because that's where they had a giant computer that took up the whole room. It was the very earliest computers. I forget, it had a special name. I don't remember what it was, but it took up the whole room, and very big room. And he was going to go away for a week, and he figured that it would be nice for us both to have a vacation that way. But we had the problem of where to leave the children. Bruce was about 2, and Harriet was about 5. She was going to kindergarten. And well, of course, Mom was working, so she couldn't take the kids together. And my mother-in-law sort of disappointed me because I thought she would take them both, but she said no, she would take one, but not 2. So we figured the older one would be best for Pearl and my mom, because then Pearl could take her to kindergarten and pick her up, which she did. And Bruce was assigned to my mother-in-law. And we brought over his carriage and her other equipment, all that. And when we called from the station, because I really left with trepidations, it was the first time I had really been away from my kids. And I called up, and I spoke. I could hear Bruce screaming in the background. And my mother-in-law said, I don't know what I'm going to do. He won't go to sleep. He won't go on the bed. He doesn't want to get on there. Every time I put him on the bed, he screams. He's just screaming. I don't know what I'm going to do. So Will said, I have to go. He said, he's going to stop crying. He's not going to keep on crying all the time. He's going to stop. But if you feel that you have to stay here and take him home, he said, but I'd like you to come. So I gritted my teeth and I went with him. When we came back, we finally found out why. He didn't leave my side for I don't know how long after that, but we found out what had happened. He was used to sleeping in a crib that had a solid headboard and footboard, the way cribs are. But this bed was I think a New England type furniture. It was a maple bed, but it had a slatted headboard. And he was convinced that it was a broken bed. And he did not want to sleep in a broken bed. That's what I finally got out of him. So he slept in his carriage. But he did stop crying. So we had a very interesting week. Will took me into that big computer room and showed it to me. It has a special name, I know, because when I took Afan and Alan for Alan's 13th birthday, he wanted to go to see volcanoes, and we went to Hawaii. And Alphon came along because he could drive a car. And Alphon went to visit some special place that he knew about because that had that kind of a computer. So I went in with him to see it. And he told me the name of it, but I don't remember.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Do you know what the name of it was?
No, I don't. There was, I remember seeing photographs of some very early IBM ones,
Mm-hmm.
which take up a whole room.
That's right. Well, I don't know what the company made them, but they were used for research at Purdue. And I can also tell you that Purdue University has the best ice cream I ever tasted.
Oh, really?
Really wonderful. As good as Kansas State, KSU, where Harriet and Marty were, where I visited and tasted their ice cream too. Because all these ice creams have their ag departments, and they are proud of their products.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to see what the early computer was, if they have a thing on it. So you said it was at Purdue? Do you remember?
Yeah. Purdue University.
Wow.
Lafayette, Indiana.
Yeah, yeah. Nope, not finding that there. University.
Anyway, happy birthday, Pearl.
Oh, yes, you should say that,
It
yes.
was Pearl's birthday I was doing this. I didn't think I was going to get into all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just talking about a DEC VAX computer, but that must be later.
So this is the first real big computer.
Okay, let's see. The first computer. Let's see if that brings up something. Oh, first room-sized, recognizably modern computer.
Well, let's see. Bruce was born in 44, so this must have been in 46.
Mm-hmm. And it was electronic with tubes, right?
Who knows? I mean, I don't know anything about those kinds of things.
Let's try 1946 computer.
Oh, yeah, you were asking me about the photographs that I took. So.
Oh, yes, the exhibit.
Yeah, well, I started taking photographs of children, and I used, that's my telephone. Do you mind if I answer?
Yeah, here, I'll pause the recording.